Newsfirst, NEWSLINE with Faraz, Shauketaly.
And a jolly good morning to you. This is NEWSLINE. It's a recording, but it's a recording done at the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo, which is where we broadcast from. And this morning, I thought I'd look at a roundup of several events that is affecting our country and that is of national interest to all of us. Well, I've got about 5 items on here, and who better than to do the honors with, other than my one-time co-host, my friend and fellow broadcaster, the journalist, Mr. Bandula Jayasekara. Very good morning to you, Bandula.
Morning, Faraz. Good to be back with you.
Yes, it's wonderful having you. And I always like to remind everyone that it is you who held my hand, quite literally, at the beginning, because you were the more experienced man. And
we both have experience and we continue with our friendship.
Indeed. But it was very nice. But I think... do you remember the time when I used to have a mind block at the beginning of the program?
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember the guest's name.
Then I had to introduce the guest.
Yes, and you had to introduce the guest. Until one day, you without warning, said to me, as it started, as we went live, you said, "Well, Faraz, today it's your turn to introduce the guest." And of course, I had forgotten the name of the guest. And I said, "Well, on NEWSLINE, we do things differently. We let the guests introduce themselves."
I remember that.
So those are the good times. But it's over 5 years that we've done this, because the bond scam is 5 years and 1 day old. Yesterday was the 5th anniversary of the bond. It's shocking. But I've got about five different things happening, which is in the papers now and current. And I was thought sort of get your take on it, especially because you were a former diplomat. You represented our country in North America, in Australia, and of course with your journalistic background as well. I thought I'd ask you, what do you make of what's going on in Geneva then?
No, yesterday, Dinesh Gunawardene, the foreign minister, went and made his representation saying that we have to we want to be out of it as a co-sponsor. But let's see how the reactions will be, because I saw a Human Rights Watch tweet saying that we should not let them get out of it, and all these NGOs and all will put pressure on the country. But let's see how the council reacts. But I think they are getting about in a very professional way, not being antagonistic. I mean, the Sri Lankan
side.
Yeah, Sri Lankan side.
So obviously you can't just sort of announce, well, we're not part of this, and then forget about it. There's a process, and obviously that process has now started. And like you say, it's not. It is, whilst the matter is contentious, the action is anything other than contentious. They're going about it very diplomatically.
Yeah, which is very good.
Yes.
But what they're also saying that there was no mandate.
Yeah.
And earlier it was only Mangala Sambaravira who was fully involved. But also you remember, I think you have mentioned this, that Tilak Marapan had a different view. He had a more nationalistic, or he represented the country, whereas Mangala was different. So now, even though you don't have to get the approval of the cabinet or the parliament, but this is what the present government is saying. And then there's hope. They say that because it's a new government, they want to do it differently. But it's also a bit of a hostile ground with the NGOs, INGOs there.
So it's not an easy battle.
Yeah, but like I said, the way the government is getting about, there was a time during President Rajapaksa's time, there were battles, there were hostility, there were fights even with the US.
There was also physical fights amongst the diplomats. Chris Nonis and Sajjan Vasa come to mind.
So, but that was not in Geneva.
No, that was in New York?
New York, So with that, now the current president is going about in a different way. because hostilities will not help anybody. It's diplomacy what one should practice.
So you think the president is doing the right thing?
Yes, I mean there's no huge hahu.
Right.
So they have sent a good delegation with the minister, then Minister Mahinda Samarasinghe plus Attorney General's Department. I thought then the Foreign Secretary. There's no big bandwagon. So there are professionals who are representing the country.
And what about this business about General Shavendra then, and the U.S. travel ban on him and his family?
Yeah, so that was announced by the Secretary of State of the U.S. Pompeo himself. So they are also, I think, I mean, it's there. Sometimes I feel that it might fizzle out because they are also,
think so?
Yeah, because they are also, the government hasn't reacted strongly. There were statements, plus first time we saw the leader of opposition also issuing a statement. It never happened before in support of the Lieutenant General.
Was that here? You mean?
Yeah, here. So which hadn't happened. So there is consensus, but we'll wait and see. So that also, I mean, it's all, this can be won through or by diplomacy. But I saw the President of Philippines, President Duterte, reacted by not, because there was a general there also, I think they said they are not going to issue a visa, but he said, look, I'm not going to issue a visa for somebody from the US. So some people do, I mean, diplomacy in a way is also reciprocity or tit for tat.
But do you think that the Philippines is on a better wicket with the US, and therefore they can sometimes afford to say the things that they've said, whereas in Sri Lanka, can we actually say that?
No, but what happens is, let's not forget the time of Mrs. Bandaranayake. We were a non-aligned nation. We had self-respect. What the famous words of Mr. Lakshman Kadragama, Faraz, he always said, we are not economic power, we are not a political power, but if we cannot lose our self-respect. So if we act diplomatically than going for just like street fights, we can keep our respect. Let's not forget, President Premadasa sent a British High Commissioner out of the country. Mr. Lakshman Kadragama sent 2 UN heads out of the country. People, because we are a sovereign nation, but we should act that way. Then there will be respect. Even America will respect.
Lakshman Kadragama, when he made the decision, was he the foreign minister?
He was a foreign minister.
And he took his own decision to return those officials away.
Yeah, they were sent back. They were sent back, and third one was warned not to interfere. And I remember that's the time he said that UN's job is to eradicate malaria.
I see. Is it right for the Sri Lankan government to try and link General Shavendra's travel ban with our own national requirements in terms of what's happening in Geneva and so on?
I think there seems to be a link. There are pressure tactics, but UN is out of the council. But it's everything boils down to how we handle it.
You mean the US is out of the council?
Yeah, they went out of the...
Yeah.
I think they call it a suspit or something when they got out of the council. There are no more, but of course they have their people, the Britain, Canada, so they can use pressure, which they do that.
And why do you think they've banned the family?
Yeah, I think that's wrong.
Don't you think also what was wrong? I was thinking that human rights is part, the presumption of innocence is central to human rights, and almost as much is acknowledged universally. And I was wondering whether it is right for us to quote this anomaly where our general, is being sort of accused of something, and on top of all that, they slap him a travel ban.
Yeah, US is wrong in that. That's what the government has taken a stand. They are asking, where do you get this information? This is supposed to be unverified information, so they are not telling us where they got the information. It's very clear. They are wrong. So, but US does all sorts of things.
All sorts of wrong things.
Yeah, wrong things.
Right.
So, I mean, they think they are the policemen of the world, but they aren't. They don't practice what they preach. If you look at human rights violations by them,
Yeah.
is enormous. And then even recently where there was controversy in the US where President Trump pardoned a Marine who, I'm sure you know that story.
Yeah.
So that's wrong. So even the US Navy people were against it, other Marines were against it, but he pardoned him. But they have a proof about his violations.
Can we ask the question, is there any merit at all coming out of the opposition camp, if you like, as in the diaspora, LTT-leaning diaspora, in their claim that we're going to be back to square one in terms of human rights and accountability and so on, because it's the Rajapaksa government in power?
No, it is up to the current president. He seems to be getting about properly the right way without megaphone diplomacy. He seems to be, so we have to give him some time.
Right.
Because he has to get his team in place. Even though but I mean, I don't know.
Did you see that report the other day? It said they've concluded, that the people who were applied to be at state-owned enterprises, and some ministers giving us a wonderful summary, and in his summary, it almost highlights the problem in the summary, because the whole anomaly of this whole thing comes into play. Is it right for some foreign country to tell us that you've got the wrong army commander?
It's very wrong, and they know it's wrong. So that's what I said. So we also should be able to do this, because now take US issues a human rights report every year about various countries. Only China stands up to it, and they also issue a human rights report.
Okay.
So we can, we have been a non-aligned country. We have a right to take a stand. And I'm sure even the US or any other country would respect us. But we must also practice what we preach.
How difficult was it when you were serving in North America, in Canada and in the United States? How easy was it for you? Did you have this whole war business being pumped at you day in and day out?
Yeah, because I think when I was in Canada, that was the most difficult times where terrorism was ending. That was a very difficult time. Then the US also was a bit difficult, but we had the support of other countries. But we have to continue engaging. Engagement is important, but not challenging, but engage.
Engage, but not challenge.
Yeah.
And you reckon that's the best option?
Yeah, it's important because, see, even like I said, even the biggest country will listen to you if you explain it properly. But we can't have odd things happening in this country. And now take that Tangle rape case, right? I think these things were delayed. If we take action immediately on those, or at that time they could have taken action.
Yes, it took about 2 years to get to trial.
So people say, look, this is impunity. So you can't.
It sends the wrong message out.
Yeah, so you can't. Then they will also have points to say. So okay, fine. Okay, everybody will be equal. Not that they are equal. I mean, lots of wrong things happen. Take for instance Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, so you can't how they treat their people.
Yeah.
The whom I call the First Nations. So there are issues. But this bullying also goes on.
International bullying.
Yeah, international bullying. It's not fair. But we must also train our people, get ourselves organized,
Yeah.
have not have rhetoric.
Do you think this sort of almost subservience instilled in successive generations in our country, do you think it'll all go away if the government of the day concentrated on empowering the masses?
Definitely.
Empowering them with more tertiary education, colleges, more capacity to go to university, so that long term Sri Lankan society will not only be literate, they will also be knowledgeable.
Yeah, definitely. But you use the word subservience.
Yeah.
It's very true. These things can, like, even the foreign ministry has to be empowered. I'll bring a good example. I was watching President Trump's visit to India. There were they call themselves secretaries, commerce secretaries and
Yeah.
all this. But the protocol line, the line of protocol,
Yeah.
the American ambassador to New Delhi was number one. He was given his due place.
Right.
Now, when I saw when President Rajapaksa went to, Prime Minister Rajapaksa went to New Delhi recently,
Yeah.
the last in line was our acting High Commissioner. That's not the way to do that, what
Right.
you just explained.
Yeah.
So you have to give them their not
due place.
due place. So the Trump's children were not taken to that line, the protocol line first. I think it's Ambassador Ken Juster. He was there prominently. So you have to empower. You're talking of empowering the future generation, but you should empower our diplomats. Give them the freedom, give them the facility, because we have a good set of diplomats, both some politically appointed.
But you have some political appointments.
Yeah, but you have to have both.
Right.
Because America, you take, most of them are politically appointed. But then when they go there, they become fully pledged diplomats and they do their work. They are not dragged in to do other things.
Right.
But this was, I was watching, good example. So
what do you mean other things, like carry the visiting ministers back?
yeah, definitely. So that's an inferiority complex which these so-called politicians have, but all diplomats, they don't do that. So now things have changed. So it's up to the diplomats also not to do that. It's up to them because they have their own people. So that's what I said. This is it's a great, I would have to say, use the word great inferiority complex they have. This is not new colonization. So things have to change a lot.
Things have to change a lot. Interesting words. Whilst you're driving around here and there, and I know that you are almost a sort of frequent flyer card holder.
No,
Not from the airline, but from the hospital. I don't mean to make light of it.
Yeah.
But I hope you're doing well and so on. And I know that viewers who follow our programs, there's a level of interest that I didn't think was there, and so it has renewed my faith in my fellow citizens in Sri Lankans, because so much of calls and messages and emails asking about you, which in a way my faith in humanity is restored. So thank you for that. I just wanted to say that because I'd get told off if I don't say it. So now they won't tell me off, right? So, but Bandula, have you noticed while you're going up and down, and unlike me, I know you don't sleep in the car, military police on the road? What do you have to say about that?
I think, I don't want to name names, but I saw few retired generals from Sri Lanka Army they have objected to it. Because I saw the social media, they have said, look, it's wrong. And I also think it's wrong.
Why?
What they should do is, military police is there to police inside the military.
Yeah.
So they don't have police powers. But so what the government should do is recruit more policemen, train them, because a military police officer cannot book you. I don't think they have the powers.
Yeah, they don't.
So instead of, okay,
That's why the police are there.
yeah, so they should recruit them, more police officers, train them and use them. So this is, they are not meant to do normal duties.
But sometimes when I first noticed it a few days ago, I thought that there was some sort of VIP movement, and so I was looking forward to see the flash cars go past. And my driver reminded me that you don't have those things anymore, and we only have it very. You see it very little. And the other day I was coming back from Hambantota after I'd gone to Umoya, and we noticed that was the day the highway was being opened, and we noticed that President Gotabaya arrived by road, and I saw his entourage going the other way when we were headed towards Colombo and he was headed towards the south. It was very simple. I don't think we ought to be giving details because all sorts of implications there, but put it this way, they didn't have the full shebang as they did before.
He's setting an example, but others should follow.
Yeah.
These other...
But old habits die hard.
Yeah, so he has to take certain action, because like yesterday, two drivers I spoke to, they said, we vote for these people and we have to give our way. Why should we do that?
Indeed.
Because they are servants of the people. They have to give way to the ordinary people. So President is setting an example, and I think he will have to follow it up.
I thought as the Samaritan that when I got shot and I tried to open the door and run, the gunman elbowed me out of the way, and I was almost tempted to. I was almost reduced to the role of doorman, holding the door open for them to run. I ought to have put my hand out and said, "Can I have a few pennies for that?" As a tip. But I understand what you're saying. But then, what do you do in peacetime with all these people? Our armed forces is completely bloated now.
No, but then that's not the answer to bring them for traffic duty, because they are not trained for traffic duty.
But then, if you are, what is it my granny used to say? Something about an empty mind is a devil's playground.
Yeah, but they can be used for other things. Anyway, in fact, if you really look at the forces...
But they did try. They sent... Do you remember the time that they sold vegetables?
They did that.
Yeah.
But they're more than that, they are contributing on a lot of construction work.
Yeah.
They are saving lots of money.
Yeah.
But then...
from the perspective of the soldier who joined because he wanted to fight for president and country, and then suddenly the guy who's joined to fight for the motherland is then sent to the hotel in Kankasanture and is now a waiter.
It's like, so that I'll bring, because when I spoke to some other forces people, these army, navy, they have their properties. So what they say is they train them after they leave for them to find a job. Because there is a certain period, because it's their own properties.
Yeah.
So which they are happy, because they learn another trade.
Yes, but if you also notice with the armed forces, now this is very evident on Independence Day. You see people, you'll see those trucks and the tanks and all that. Some of them are really, really old. I think this time round we had the Russian general who was a chief guest, I believe. I was wondering whether he, and he's a military man, I was wondering, I thought to myself, I'm sure he hasn't seen some of this equipment, even though they're Russian. They're so old, but they were still, traveling around the roads. Then I thought to myself, you know, yesterday and day before, we've had these things about NEWSLINE, hasn't it? So I thought to myself that I was going to write a letter to President Gotabaya this morning, and I will do that actually, and I'm going to ask him, now that NEWSLINE is broken down so many times, and now I think we've come to a situation where we don't know if this is sabotage or whether it's really product failure. Nevertheless, the best thing to do is to send the army in. Because when you send it's a matter of national importance, it's a security problem. You send the army in, they can make sure that there's no premeditated subversive activity.
Yeah, definitely.
And on the other side, the army, they know a thing or two about maintenance, which is why I mentioned the February 4th celebrations. I wonder what you would say to that.
Yeah, in certain situations, I agree. Because like worldwide emergencies, disasters, army moves in.
I think the greatest emergency that our country is facing is from the emergency of corruption.
Yeah, so
And therefore, the people will be behind the president if the president is really minded to fight corruption.
no, he has to be stern, take firm action. I mean, especially disciplinary action. He mustn't let politicians, he's still not a politician even though he's the president. He should not let others do their own thing. Politicians will try to put it, like you said, under the carpet, make money. So you should stop that. So that's what I think he's trying to bring some certain educated people to the parliament, but I hear that there are a lot of opposition to that also. So you should throw all these people so they have a chance during nomination time.
But then, having the president's fighting for good governance, it's crazy. The people who promised good governance didn't deliver good governance, and the people when they came in saying that, look, we are good governance people, those others are the bad guys. Now we find a case where these so-called bad guys are now in power again, and this time round, the former defense secretary is this time around the president, and he seems to be trying to fight the clean battle. But then, and this is an absolute golden thing, in the papers yesterday was Mahinda Deshapriya defends the right to have defeated candidates in parliament.
I don't know how he can defend that.
What? How on earth can he articulate such a position?
I don't think that's his business at all.
Yeah.
That's his business, but then he should take a stand. He should say, no, you can't. You can't appoint. So they have to bring rules, because this was brought, I think, if I'm not mistaken, during President Jawardana's time, to have educated people.
That's right, to have
educated people who can contribute to the parliament. You have the same old people coming back, whether it's JUP or SLFP or Pohottu or all these people, they come back. So they are rejected by the masses for a reason. So I think he should take a strong stand on this.
Indeed. Do you know, Bandra, when you're having a good time, time flies. We've come to the end of 30 minutes.
I didn't realize it.
No. So I'm being told I got finished. So I'm going to let you go. But we are keenly following not only the progress of our country, of its economy, of its rules and regulations, but we are also looking at you, our friend.
Thank you very much.
And we do think about you.
Thank you, Faraz.
Take care, and I'll see you around, Bandale. And that's the way it was on Newsline. Thank you for watching. Take care, and of course, as always, God bless.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.